Hi, I'm Hazel, and this is a guide to normal and heroic difficulty Kil'jaeden in the Tomb of Sargeras. This fight has all the fancy trimmings that you expect from the final boss of a tier. We got 3 phases, 2 distinct intermissions, lore NPCs helping without helping, and about 10 minutes of fight to execute. Buckle up. We start in phase 1, and we'll stay here until the boss reaches 80% health. Felclaws is our resident tank mechanic. For about 12 seconds, Kil'jaeden's melee swings will leave a stacking debuff that increases damage taken. After Felclaws ends, the other tank needs to taunt and take the boss. Rupturing Singularity is this slow-falling shadow orb. When it lands, it'll knock everyone back from the point of impact. You can absolutely get knocked off the edge, so take note of where the singularity is and get close to it, but not under it or you'll die. The first one will always spawn in the middle, and for that one I like to stand on one of these dagger patterns on the floor. After that, it'll spawn in random corners of the room, so keep an eye out for where it is and scooch accordingly. Armageddon calls down several meteors that need to be soaked. If an Armageddon lands with nobody in it, it'll explode for a ton of damage that can ruin your pull. The smaller ones can be soaked by any individual player, while the big scary one needs to be soaked by either a tank with a minor cooldown or another player with a full immunity such as Ice Block or Divine Shield. After soaking an Armageddon, you'll have a 1-minute dot. That dot will stack, and more than one stack gets very dangerous. You should avoid soaking back-to-back Armageddons unless you're a rogue who can cloak off the debuff. Everyone in the raid will need to take turns running for meteors. When the boss reaches 80% health, he'll fly away and start the first intermission. During the intermission, he gains Nether Gale and takes 99% reduced damage. Ranged DPS can still hit him, but you won't do much and it's better to just focus up and do mechanics. This is a timed intermission that will end after 1 minute. Armageddon will continue, so keep soaking the puddles. Bursting Dreadflame puts big circles around several players. They'll need to spread out in opposite directions to reduce the amount of overlap, and players should position so that they don't take more than one of those. Focused Dreadflame will target a random player and put an arrow over their head. After about 5 seconds, a beam of fire will shoot out towards the target. High damage is split between everyone in that beam, so you'll need several people to get in line and help soak. If the Dreadflame target has an immunity handy, they can solo soak it. After a minute of flapping about, Kil'jaeden lands, becomes attackable, and phase 2 begins. All of the previous abilities will continue, and there's one new one to manage. Shadow Reflection will target several players and make them really tall. After about 8 seconds, they'll spawn a Shadow Reflection ad each, which starts casting Erupting Dreadflame. It's best to run into melee if you get Shadow Reflection so that everyone can help cleave down your ad. They don't need to be tanked, but they are top priority, so everyone needs to switch to them. Erupting Dreadflame does heavy raid-wide damage if it goes off, and it's not kickable, so you want to down the ads ASAP. At 40% health, Kil'jaeden pieces out again and the second intermission begins. Everything is going to go super dark with Deceiver's Veil, and Shadow Soul ads will spawn. Choking Shadows racks up as the intermission continues, so it's a race to kill all the Shadow Soul ads to push the fight to phase 3. Problem is, you can't see anything, and you can't target anything farther than 8 yards away. Job 1 is to find Illidan. Hunters and cat-formed druids can locate him on the mini-map with Find Humanoid and help direct the raid. Once you get to Illidan, dip your toes in his puddle to gain his Sightless Gaze. That lets you do damage and healing to targets within 40 yards. With that, it's time to find and nuke down the ads as fast as you can to get out of this intermission. During all of this, the raid is taking damage from the ads and a dot from Illidan's puddle, which is rough on healers when you add in that Choking Shadows healing absorb. This is a good time for your health pot or small personal defensive cooldowns. With all of the Shadow Souls dead, the darkness lifts and the final phase begins. Bursting Dreadflames, Focused Dreadflames, and Felclaws will come back, but we are done with Armageddons and Singularities. Tear Rift spawns a rift on the side of the platform. When it's active, it sucks players towards it and applies gravity squeeze to anyone inside this outer purple line. You'll need the rift to deal with mechanics, so it's nice of Kil'jaeden to drop one down for us. Darkness of 1,000 Souls is a long cast that sends dangerous bolts at everyone in the raid. They do a lot of damage and leave a big dot up for the rest of the fight, so this just sucks. The first one happens right away and you'll need to use cooldowns to get through it. After that, you should have a rift available to help. Standing just inside the gravity squeeze zone when the cast goes off sucks the bolt safely away into the rift. Demonic obelisks will spawn in phase 3 and persist in the room. Periodically, they'll spit out beams of fire directly ahead and to their sides in kind of a grid fashion. Avoid that by staying off the X and Y axis lines of the obelisks. On normal, that's the fight. LFR doesn't open until August 8th, but we can assume that it'll be tuned generously and might drop a mechanic or two. On Heroic though, the DPS and healing requirements are much tighter and there are a few more mechanics to handle. Heroic Kil'jaeden gets an upgrade to his Fell Claws, causing them to affect anyone in a frontal cone of the boss. Tanks should face him safely away from the group. Shadow Reflections will spawn earlier, starting in Phase 1. The tank has his own Shadow Reflection mechanic starting in Phase 2, which spawns a Wailing Reflection. That one needs to be tanked and does increasing raid-wide damage until it's killed. Rupturing Singularity carries into the first intermission, so you need to avoid being knocked off while dealing with everything else going on there. Focused Dreadflame gets an upgrade. On Heroic, everyone helping soak the Focused Dreadflame beam will do a 5-yard explosion. Beam players need to spread out. You'll probably want to use fewer players to soak to help avoid stacking problems. 4 to 6 player soaking is a pretty safe bet. Flaming Orb is a brand new Phase 3 mechanic that's added to this fight on Heroic. A big flaming orb will spawn and start chasing the closest player. If it hits anyone, it'll explode and drop fire. A designated player should stand near it to pick it up and then kite it into the gravity squeeze zone. The rift will suck it safely away, and that's the end of that. So that's Kil'jaeden. Fight-wise, this is the perfect encounter to cap off the Tomb of Soak mechanics. Thanks for watching! Check out my channel for other WoW guides, please consider leaving a like if you liked it, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!